The Fulbright ETA program in Malaysia is an educational exchange program through the U.S. State Department. Currently, in 2012, there are 50 ETAs who live and teach in Malaysia for 1 year. We act as cultural ambassadors for the U.S., and our primary responsibility is to teach conversational English to primary or secondary students at our respective schools.
A typical day for me begins sometime between 7:30 and 8. I live on campus, so I easily just walk over, enter the buildings. No matter who you pass in the hallway, you will always be greeted by a very enthusiastic good morning, and how are you if they're brave.
So when I walk through the school in the morning, I am usually met with a chorus of good mornings by all the students, some teachers, staff, everyone. They will often shout across the courtyard, or I'll see some hands sticking out between the shutters waving at me as I walk by. And that I'm very proud of, because in the very beginning no one would say anything to me in the morning, and now they are the first ones to say good morning.
So an important part about being an ETA is that you don't have to follow any specific curriculum, but that's also something that makes it very challenging, because you have to decide for yourself what you're going to cover. So I found it very helpful to ask the other English teachers what they were covering in class, so I could have a jumping off point for my own activities. But the really fun part is that you can play really fun games and just get silly with the kids. And it got to the point in a lot of my classes that when they would see me coming down the hall, they would start cheering, like, "Miss Morgan!" And so that was always really fun to see. But also the fact that we're here, the fact that we will only speak English with them, is a really good motivation for them to learn English.
The moment you enter any class, you will hear an immediate "Stand up, class! Good morning, teacher!" and everyone will repeat. So you will get to know the cadence of every class. Some are a bit lagging in their rhythm, others are very much on point. It's really cute to see the difference.
Good morning, class!
Yeah.
Let's try that one more time. Good morning, class! You may sit. You guys can sit.
Okay, go.
Most of the time when I'm in the classroom, I start off with a usual routine where I have the students tell me the month and the day in English. They usually answer questions about how they are, but they can never answer fine, so I usually make them do something else, even if it's something that's kind of a complaint, like they're tired or they're hot or they're hungry. After that, we move on to, I introduce the lesson, spend about 10-15 minutes going over the lesson and reviewing it, and then a lot of the lessons we break into groups. And after I break them into groups or do something similar to that, I circulate, go around the classroom, and stop at each group or each desk for the student and help them along with the project if I see that someone is going a little bit slower. And then, of course, encourage the ones that are making really good progress.
When the ETAs, when we go into the classroom and we do these different activities that the kids aren't used to, that they haven't seen before, that's really exciting for them, and I think you can definitely see that, you know, whether it's just a quick icebreaker that gets them up and moving, or whether it's a multi-week project and they present at the end. Because some of the ideas that I was using, I saw by the end, were getting incorporated into the lesson plans of the teachers, and I think that seeing all these different things throughout the year kind of got them thinking about how, you know, they could use the little bit of room that they do have to deviate from just writing or copying things out of textbooks and try to change it up in their own classes. So to see this constant dialogue, constant adjusting, I think that was pretty cool.
My goal this year in the classroom was to get students really excited about English. I am not a trained teacher, but what I can do is make students realize English is a living language, and to use it means more than just practicing things in a book or just standing in class reciting something. It means being able to talk to people. And so I made a huge effort in my classes to get students up and out of their seats, having fun, enjoying themselves. And I measured the success of a lesson by how many students were standing up, screaming and laughing their heads off. And most of the time, yeah, they were doing that. It was really a lot of fun to be in the classroom here.
All right. What is your name? Question number 1. What? Perfect. What is your name? My name is Muhammad Faisal. All right. What form are you in? Tumutiara. Good. And how old are you?
14 years old.
14 years old. Nice. And where do you live?
I live in
Felda Kumai. Cool. How many brothers and sisters do you have?
One.
You have
103 sisters.
And what is one thing you know about America?
Spaghetti.
You know spaghetti. Do you like spaghetti? Delicious?
I like.
Cool. Nice. And what is one thing you like about me?
Handsome.
What?
Handsome.
Oh, I am handsome? Ah, well, thank you. I'm handsome boy. Are you crazy boy or are you handsome boy? Handsome boy? Good. All right. So what is your name? You have to answer. Say what your name is.
My name is Atika.
Good. And what form are you in? Mutiara. Good. And how old are you?
I'm
14 years old. And how many brothers and sisters do you have? Perfect. What do you want to be when you grow up? All right, one at a time. What do you want to be? Stewardess. What do you want to be? What? A doctor? Oh, doctor. Doctor. A stewardess? Fashion designer. Nice.
Me, photographer.
Yeah? Cool. What is something you know about America? Justin Bieber. Selena Gomez.
Big country song.
It is a big country.
Yeah.
You like Mr. Blake because he is sporting.
Good teacher.
He is handsome. Yes. What? He is good.
Good teacher.
Tall.
Funny.
He is funny. Nice. Perfect. And what was your favorite activity?
Playing bingo.
Playing bingo. What? Playing ball, watching television, watching a movie?
Watching story.
Watching a movie.
Alright.
And are you going to miss me when I go back to America?
Yeah.
Yeah? Oh, I'm going to miss you guys too.
So my secret weapon for engaging students and getting them up and out of their seats was competition. And honestly, I'm kind of terrified by how well competition worked. I mean, I would put passages up on the board and have students fill in the blanks with the appropriate verb. And I'd also have them pick out errors. And I had them competing against each other to do it. And they would get so excited about this that they would beg me not to leave. I had an hour class turn into a 2-hour class. But the kids were still excited about grammar for the entire 2 hours. What's with that?
Yeah.
The obvious challenge would be trying to get students to participate when they're just so resistant. And for me, it's not like I can go up and twist their arm. And I wouldn't want to do that anyway. But for example, I wanted to do a word of the day. And I go up to a student a few minutes before assembly. And I say, hey, can you read the word of the day? I used to give students a day before, 2 days before to rehearse until my chosen students started to not show up to school because they knew they were giving the word of the day. So then my mentor said, forget it, just pull a student right before assembly. And I sure did, but it takes about 5, 6, 7 minutes literally to get them to go to the side with me and wait for the word of the day to be called.
When I came to KL for the first time, Macy gave us teachers who talked to us about the education system in Malaysia and some discipline techniques that we could use in our own classrooms. For example, one management technique that I've adopted and used effectively is when the students are talking too much and I just want them to be quiet and to pay attention. I would just stand still, I would just be quiet and place my finger on my lips like this. And this technique took some time for the students to get used to what I was doing, but over time the students would notice that I would stop talking and I wanted them to pay attention. So they would turn to their friends and say, shh, be quiet because Miss Patricia is talking or Miss Patricia wants to talk. It was hard at first to just stand there and wait with your finger over your lips like this because it kind of feels awkward. And obviously this technique works better in some classes than others, but over time I found the results of the technique to be much more immediate. And with this technique I was able to silence a classroom and still be a friendly teacher to my students without having to pull a mean face or yell or anything. Eventually my students became the people who enforced my rules rather than me, so I've actually found that using this sort of technique took a lot of pressure off of myself to balance being both a friendly teacher and being a disciplinarian at the same time.
The ETA has to fulfill many roles. The ETA is not only a teacher, but a friend, a mentor, and someone that the students look up to because the ETA has something unique. Just because we are from other places, they naturally are interested and naturally want to know more. So there are many different roles that may be different than a traditional teacher. What I kind of compare it to is almost like a camp counselor that needs to know a little bit of pedagogy. So you have your camp counselor moments where you mentor the students and that you're close friends with them and that you go eat with them at canteen or you go serve them food at the co-op or you read the newspaper with them in the library. But then you also have your teaching moments where you try to get projects done in the classroom. And it's it's really mixing those things as well as seeing the students outside of the class and doing activities in their communities or coming over to their houses for Hari Raya. It's those types of activities that make the ETA program more than just simply a teaching program or more than just simply an assistant program. It really combines a lot of things from all across the board that I think help give students a great perspective on English and really make English not just part of one 40-minute class period for a day, but they start to make English as part of their daily lives.
I think the challenges faced in primary schools are in some ways unique and in some ways the same across the board of ETA experiences. When I first arrived at my school, I definitely overestimated the level of English from the students, and they could, especially in the younger years, can still be struggling with what's your name come September, which is at times frustrating, but they're always so eager to learn and so cute. And just the pure joy on their face when they see you, even if you're having the roughest day, is really encouraging.
One of the issues that I faced and struggled with was that I have a lot of students in my primary school that have a very low level of English and are illiterate in both Bahasa Melayu and in English. And I got a little too caught up in thinking that I needed to be their foundation for English language learning and to try and correct all the problems that I saw. So I decided to change my thought process around and focus on having fun with these kids. And when I did that, when I focused on incorporating more movement and games and simple exercises, and instead of trying to teach them vocabulary and the next day coming back and having them not remember one word, I focused on maybe a few words and incorporating them into a game. And then it just went a lot more smoothly. And I realized that that's the point, is have fun and let them enjoy your presence in the classroom. You just have to really live in the fun positives, like the hokey pokey and duck duck goose and racing for vocab words.
There was a real stigma against speaking English or speaking in a foreign language that most people didn't understand. But when I finally came to their school, when the teachers and the principal announced that an American ETA was coming to their school, everyone in the school, students and teachers, no exception, had to speak English. So when everyone knew that they had to speak English, now the social stigma against speaking English just totally disappeared. So I feel that one of my purposes as an ETA in this school, I feel that my purpose in that respect has been accomplished here.
Of course, every day in the classroom, you have students that you can see them learn over time, and you see the things that they pick up, and they get more and more of the grammar right, or they're more and more open about doing presentations in class. And it's that type of everyday change, or the incremental change over the long term, that really gives me confidence for the future, gives me confidence that next year's ETA will have a good foundation to come in and work with, and it's some of the more rewarding stuff.
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have English word of the day.
Okay, what is today's word of the day?
Strive.
Yeah, good. What does strive mean?
To work hard for, or to fight for.
Ah, good.
Wave. Wave at the camera. It's a camera. It's a video. a video. You want a picture? Yes. Well, it's actually on camera mode. 1, 2, 3. Click. You like to eat food?
Yes.
Yeah? What do you like to eat? What is that? Is that chicken rice?
Yes.
Is that a chicken feet? Yeah, chicken feet, right there.
Ducky.
Ducky? Not ducky. You ready? 1, 2, 3. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Click!
1, 2, 3. Betty bought some butter, but the butter Betty bought was bitter. So Betty bought some better butter, and the better butter Betty bought was better than the bitter butter Betty bought before.
Salam si anggun si gadis ayu dari kota raya ke pedalaman, kamu dari Likas ke Pekan Rabu di carta aku, kau nombor 1 aku. Berikrar aku berjanji, teman-teman aku menjadi saksi. Jauh di mata, dekat di hati, jadi izinkan aku pergi berlari. Keliling dunia 2-3 kali, ku tahu hanya satu perkara pasti. Selagi bumi di atas paksi, bila tiba masa aku kembali.
Bawaku kemana saja kau suka, timur, selatan, barat atau utara. Dampingi aku selalu. You'll be my Malaysian boy, Malaysian boy.
So this is video.
Video.
See, it's video.
Camera.
Camera. Are you posing for a picture? 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and one more, 25.
Tell me an idiom that you like.
Hold your horses. I like Twist and shout, twist and shout. Come on, come on, come on, come on, baby now. Come on, baby. Nobody, nobody but you. I want nobody, nobody but you. How can I live in another? I don't want any other. I want nobody, 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 nobody.
One of my favorite parts about the ETA program is the co-curriculars that we get to be involved in. This is a really great aspect to the program because outside of the classroom the kids really cut loose and it's easier to build relationships with them. Activities that I was most involved in this year at SMK Chandrawasi was English Society, which I joined, and Drama Club and Girls Futsal Club, which I founded and coached. Another challenge I faced was cultural sensitivities that you don't necessarily expect going in. My initial idea when coming to Malaysia was to start a girls' football team or soccer team. But my school wasn't as comfortable with this, so we made a compromise and we created a girls' futsal team. In the end, this accomplished the same goals that I wanted to with the soccer team, which is having a group of girls together that could have an environment to use English and, you know, gain confidence in a skill that they had never really learned before. And it was really awesome to see the girls playing a sport in front of their peers that they have never played before and looking confident and feeling really good about it afterwards.
A significant amount of my time is spent doing co-curricular activities with the students. We do anything from futsal to movie night to girls speaking, various English Society activities. But my favorite club would be my book and film club. Once a week I meet with 6 girls and we read from a book that we've chosen, and once we're finished we will watch the movie. Right now we are slowly working our way through an adapted version of Pride and Prejudice and watching the BBC miniseries at the same time.
The co-curricular activities I worked on at my school were probably my favorite part of being an ETA. My school allowed me to do my own clubs, which was great. So I developed 2 clubs, both of which students had to apply by writing a letter, given reasons why they wanted to be in the club. I kept the group small, so I could encourage better interaction and communication. I had about 20 or 25 students in each club. So I did movie club for 2 months, and we would watch an English movie and then discuss the plot, characters, we do activities. It was a really great way for students to get comfortable using English and talking about something they really enjoyed. They all loved movies. The second club I did was dancing club. My students loved to dance. At my welcome ceremony, my boys did break dancing to Justin Bieber. It was probably the best thing I've ever seen. I was also lucky enough to get the opportunity to coach softball. I coached boys softball, and it was so much fun. They couldn't believe that as a girl I could actually make contact with a ball or run or really be inclined at all athletically, which was funny, but it was, great to show them that, girls can be great at sports too. And I had a great time coaching them. They were super enthusiastic when I was there. They were always super motivated. I definitely think me being around helped. Most of the boys that I coached were lower level, so their English was really poor. It was kind of difficult to communicate in the beginning, but they progressed so much just by me coaching them and talking to them in English. So that was a great way for them to get better at speaking English outside of class time.
Another thing that I was involved with was the English drama competition, where we spent about 2 to 3 weeks practicing all the drama skits. And at first it just kind of helped with the pronunciation, but as time went more and more, I kind of became more involved in the actual play and organizing it and everything. And I think it turned out great. The students didn't win, but they sure had a fun time, and you could see their confidence growing every day when we tried to practice in English.
If you are from Mr. Clinton's school, raise your hand.
No,
if you are from Miss Savina's school, raise your hand. If you are from Mr. White's school, if you are from Miss Christina's school. 1, 2, 3.
On the count of 3, we're gonna do English camp.
Alright, say English camp on 3.
1, 2, 3. Woo! Nicely done.
English camps are an opportunity to take your students out of their regular academic settings and totally turn their perceptions of English on their heads. Because for most of their life, they have not had exposure to native English speakers and probably perceive English as a boring academic subject, and just bring English to life for them. Play games, do skits, sing songs, dance, be crazy, and just have a good time. It sounds really simple, but the students who went with me to English camps and students who I met from other schools at English camps, their lives were changed. Suddenly, English had a purpose. English was interesting. English was not some academic monster that you're doomed to fail, and it's a language. It's a way to communicate and express yourself, and it's okay to make mistakes. And it took going to an English camp for them to realize that.
I think if you talk to all the ETAs, they will tell you that the English camps are one of their favorite experiences as part of the program, because you take your students, a lot of times these are the students that are the most interested. They sign up and they're really excited to come. You take your students and you go on a retreat, usually with the help of other ETAs. We've been lucky because a lot of our colleagues have tried to help each other out and have a really good environment. So we go on these retreats, we do activities. They are long, exhausting days, but they are so much fun, and they are the things that your students remember and that you remember. And you also learn some English along the way.
I planned a primary school English camp with both Becky and Adil. We brought together 80 students from year 4 and 5 for a one-night, 2-day English camp with an under the sea theme. The challenges going into the planning of camp were numerous, from just getting teachers and school administrators on board with our ideas, to finding a good place and catering that fit within our budget. But in the end, we were able to pull off the camp successfully. The kids had a lot of fun with sand castles, making s'mores, watching a movie, and learning some American dances. And I think the camp was a big success. As soon as I returned back to school, I saw a big improvement in the students' willingness to just try and speak English. And I think that was in part because of the confidence they were able to gain in camp, which was such a fun and low-risk environment.
One of the things that I think is really unique about the ETA program in Malaysia is the family atmosphere amongst all of the ETAs. I think because there are so many of us and a lot of our placements are within close proximity to one another, it really fosters a growth of friendships amongst the ETAs. They will be the only ones who truly understand what you go through on a day-to-day basis. They'll understand the challenges, the frustrations. They'll understand the humor and the cultural context of ridiculous situations. And because of that, you really just become so appreciative of them and learn to lean on the other ETAs. The funny thing is that we're all so different, but
I feel like I've known these people forever and they're part of my family, and I've just met them 10 months ago, and I think that says a lot for the nature of the program.
My roommate and I probably would have never been friends had we met in America, but through this experience we've gotten so close, and I know that we'll be friends for the rest of our lives.
Looking back on my whole experience, I think I'm going to remember my time in the English room the best. I shared the room with 5 other English teachers, all ladies, and I felt like they were really my in to Malaysia and the school here. Whenever I had a question about Malaysia or how I could do something in the school, they were eager to help me. And they came to me with questions about America, or how do you do things in America, or hey, is this how you say it in English? If they were grading an assignment. So I felt like it was a really good relationship that went both ways, and we were both helping each other. I think the best way in which they helped me, though, was their concern for the school and the students in general was quite impressive and astounding. And I feel like it was infectious. I found myself doing more than I would have otherwise and feeling a little guilty when I didn't do enough. And I really appreciate them for that. They made me be better than I would have been otherwise.
Coming into Malaysia, it's the first time I've lived in a Muslim country, and I lived in an area that was predominantly Muslim, and it took a while to get to adapt to everything, to adapt to the halal food and what is not considered halal, to the type of dress that you're supposed to wear at the schools to be respectful, and even to know when I should be at class or when class has been canceled for a prayer time or some type of speaker. So these things you have to learn as you go along with the program, but in the end they give you a deeper appreciation for Malaysians that are Muslim or of the different religions. And I think the more you learn about their religion and more about their culture, you definitely respect them more because you stop seeing as many differences and you start seeing more similarities. One of the moments that really showed to me what kind of cultural exchange and cultural dialogue that we could have was in the few days that were kind of the aftermath of the death of Ambassador Christopher Stevens in Libya. We were reading the newspaper in the library, and I usually read with some of my students, and some of the Form 5 students were in there, and there were protests about the video, the innocence of Muslims going on, and the students asked me about why the protests in Egypt and why the protests in Libya, and we talked a little bit about it, and then we had a discussion about violence and whether or not it had any role and what role it played, and all of them, all 8 of them that were there told me that they thought the violence was, awful, and that there's no excuse for it. And even though they had sympathy for the protesters because they were Muslim students, I think at the same time it represented and showed that we can all come to dialogue, to something positive, and maybe understand more about each other even after tragedy happens. Some of the ETAs this year have dealt with students that really expected them to be Caucasian from the very beginning when they first came to their schools, and they were surprised to learn that not all Americans are Caucasian. And it's something that simple and that basic that when you learn it when you are 12, 13 years old, it can set you on a lifelong journey of learning more about other people and other places.
I've learned so much through this Fulbright experience, from getting to know other people, living abroad in a completely different culture and environment, and getting to do something new, teaching. But most importantly for me, I'm taking with me the fact that I'm leaving knowing that I'm a much stronger person than I thought I was. this experience teaches you that, and it's invaluable.
This year has been an incredible gift in so many different ways. I remember sitting in orientation when Macy was listing the requirements for the year, like, oh yeah, by the way, try and do 3 English camps and you'll be in charge of 100 students and feeding them and making sure they don't kill themselves. And it's just like, what? What? No? And the thing is, I've done those things. Like, I had my camps. I've helped out with other camps. There have been moments this year where teachers have gone up to me and they've said, oh, hey, Shalene, can you entertain 300 students tomorrow for an hour? Yeah, let us know if it's too much. And the thing is, the next day comes and I do it, and it's okay. And in fact, most of the time, it's great. I've really learned that I'm so much more capable than I've ever given myself credit for, and that's such an important lesson.
One of the frustrating things about working in Malaysia is that there are so many last-minute things or unexpected events or just miscommunications that happen. I've had many classes or activities canceled just because there was an assembly or there was sports day or just something that I didn't know about. And really by the end of the year, it stops fazing you. It's not a surprise anymore if something comes up. But it's still frustrating and it's hard if you have something planned that you wanted to do. But I think you have to learn how to plan everything possible that you can control and just work around the things that you can't control.
You will meet a lot of people during your 10 months here. A lot of people will want to get to know you. They will treat you like they've known you all their lives, like you two are best friends. Trust me, it's a little strange, but I would encourage you to get to know at least 3 Malaysians. Spend your time and energy really cultivating these relationships. You're going to want to have people that you think about in the States or you're going to miss at the end of the year.
I was helping out at this primary school camp, and I noticed some face paints, and I grabbed them, and I was just like, hey, who wants their face painted? And all of a sudden, I was getting mobbed by little girls, and I think I spent the rest of the camp on my knees in front of them, painting their faces. And it was a great way to get them to use English, because I would ask them, hey, what do you want on your face? What color? And they would tell me, and they would be chatting amongst themselves to try and figure out how to tell me what they wanted. And it was great. I absolutely loved it. Face paint is my new secret weapon for dealing with little kids. And I think that's something I've really learned here in Malaysia, that there's always a solution, or there's always a new and creative route to connect with someone, and you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. You can just be yourself and grab the face paints or do what works with you, and once you do that, you're going to connect with somebody.
There are so many things that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life from the experience of the past 10 months, but some of the biggest highlights for me would probably be days I spent waiting at the bus stop with my kids after school, and the conversations and relationships that grow from that.
I will never forget the very earnest smiles of my students just by walking through the hallway. I don't think anything can compare with getting you out of a foul mood than just looking at their faces. It made my experience entirely worthwhile.
Every day I was greeted by tons of super happy students, smiling ear to ear, so excited to see me. That never gets old. It just makes you feel so great. And that's why you came here, just to see how much you mean to them.
Being an ETA in Malaysia has actually been a really awesome experience. If you ask me if
if I wanted to go home in the first month, I would have been the first one to jump on the plane back to America. But if you ask me right now if I want to go home, I really don't. I've had an amazing past 10 months. I've really gotten to know a lot of the locals. The students that I work with are absolutely amazing. And it's been an all-around awesome experience.
I think the last way that Malaysia is really going to stick with me is when I get home back to the US and other people, forget that Southeast Asia exists or don't know where Malaysia is or just aren't considerate of the whole world or parts of the world that they might not have heard of. I think I'll be able to say that I have been to a small part of one of these countries that people don't know that much about, and I've seen that the people here, they deal with the same things that we deal with back in the US. I think that the bright kids at school, they occur in the same frequency as back in the US. The not so bright kids, they occur in the same frequency as back in the US. And I think that just getting this human understanding and this experience of another place is really valuable. And I hope that in a small way, I've given it to the Malaysians that I've interacted with too. In addition to teaching them English, I hope that in seeing me as an American, they've learned a little bit more about the world and maybe got them a little bit more curious about the world outside their borders than they would have been otherwise. I think if I did that for them, and I go back and occasionally think about and talk about Malaysia, I think this has been a really successful experience for me. That's the most important thing for me.
In my rearview, I watch you watching the twilight behind the telephone lines with nothing to prove or to assume. Just thinking that your thoughts are different than mine. In my rearview, I watch you and I gave you your life, but you gave me mine. I see you slowly swim away. The light is leaving town to a place that I can't be, but there's no apologies, just go on.
오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 낮에는 따사로운 인간적인 여자 커피 한 잔에 여유를 아는 품격 있는 여자 밤이 오면 심장이 뜨거워지는 여자 그런 반전 있는 여자 너는 선어해 낮에는 너만큼 따사로운 그런 선어해 커피 식기도 전에 원샷 때리는 선어해 밤이 오면 심장이 터져버리는 선어해 그런 선어해 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 그래 바로 너 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 그래 바로 너 지금부터 갈 때까지 가볼까 오빤 강남스타일